Hello mga sisi! Welcome back to my channel. Now before we start, please don't forget to subscribe to Root and Stitch. Like our videos. If you have any requests, just leave a message on the comment box below. So today ang gagawin natin ay ang Rapunzel inspired baby costume. This would be 0 to 3 months old. So ito siya. And ito ang mga color na gagamitin natin. At ang mga option nyo sa yarn na pwedeng gamitin. Still, number 3 hook ang gagawin nating size ng crochet hook. So to start, we're going to use the lavender color yarn, make a slip knot, and then chain 62. So after your 62 chains, we're going to start our first row para sa ating body. So starting from the third chain from your hook, make 1 double crochet on each stitch. And gagawin natin to hanggang magkaroon tayo ng 8 double crochet. So for the first 8 stitches, double crochet on each stitch. Now on our 9th chain, ang ilalagay natin ay 2 double crochet plus chain 1 plus another 2 double crochet all on the same stitch. So ito yung magiging corner stitch natin. Now, after ng ating corner stitch, kung makikita nyo, magko-curve siya to form a corner. So, after that, on the next stitch, maglalagay ulit tayo ng 1 double crochet on each stitch for the next 10 stitches. So, ito ay from the 10th chain up to the 19th chain, kung bibilangin nyo siya. So, once natapos na natin yung 10 double crochet, maglalagay ulit tayo ng corner stitch doon sa susunod na stitch, which is the 20th chain. So, that's 2 double crochet plus chain 1 plus another 2 double crochet all on the same stitch. Now, after na ating second corner stitch, tutuloy natin yung 1 double crochet on each stitch, this time for the next 20 stitches or the next 20 chains. So, once na natapos na natin yung 20 double crochet, gagawa tayo ng corner stitch sa next stitch, which is again 2 double crochet plus chain 1 plus another 2 double crochet all on the same stitch. So ito na ating third corner stitch. Now after nyan, gagawa tayo ulit ng 10 double crochet for the next 10 chains. So that's 1 double crochet on each stitch. Now after that 10 double crochet, gagawin na natin yung ating last corner stitch para sa row na ito. Ulitin lang natin yung 2 double crochet plus chain 1 plus another 2 double crochet all on the same stitch. Now, once na natapos na natin yung ating last corner stitch para sa row na ito, maglalagay lang tayo ng 1 double crochet on each stitch para pa sa natitirang chains hanggang makarating tayo sa dulo. So, that should also be 8 double crochet hanggang doon sa pinaka last one. Now, we're done with our first row. Para sa ating second row, ito ay magiging same pattern for row 2 hanggang row 6. So, chain 2, turn, make 1 double crochet on each stitch hanggang marating natin yung chain 1 space. By the way, I'm going to put a pattern for bigger sizes doon sa ating description details sa baba, so you can also check it. Now, once na narating natin yung chain 1 space, yan siya, dyan natin ilalagay yung ating corner stitch ngayon. So, that's 2 double crochet plus chain 1 plus another 2 double crochet. Doon natin siya lalagay sa mismong chain 1 space. Now, after nyan, maglalagay lang ulit tayo ng 1 double crochet on each stitch. And then, every time mararating natin yung chain 1 space, maglalagay lang tayo ng corner stitch. So, gagawin lang natin yan hanggang marating natin yung pinakadulo. Okay? So, once na na-complete na natin, magkakaroon tayo ng 6 rows. So, for the 7th row, gagawin na natin yung ating armhole. So, chain 2, turn, and then make 1 double crochet on each stitch hanggang marating natin yung first corner stitch or first chain 1 space. So, once na natin yung chain 1 space, ang gagawin naman natin ngayon ay i-fold na natin para magkaharap na sila or facing each, yung dun second chain 1 space, magkadikit na sila. So, kaya niyan. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to connect these two chain 1 space gamit ang double crochet. So, yung normal na double crochet, pero i-attach natin silang magkasama. Ganyan. Once you're done, makakabuo na kayo ng armhole. And then, pag natapos na yan, tutulin lang natin yung 1 double crochet on each stitch para marating naman natin yung kabilang side. And then, gagawin din natin yung ganitong pattern para dun sa kabilang side para magawa natin yung armhole. And then, once we're done with that, we're going to make the regular 1 double crochet on each stitch hanggang sa dulo ng ating row. So, yan na. Nagawa na natin yung both sides. Ang gagawin na natin ay yung pinaka-body ng ating skirt. So, chain 2, turn, make 1 double crochet on each stitch, paikot. So, this time, yung pinaka-body na ng ating dress, ang ating lalagyan ng stitch hanggang makarating sa dulo. So, gagawin natin to from 8 to row 12. From row 8 to row 12, ganun lang yung pattern. So, nagawa na natin, natapos na natin yung ating row 12. So, we're going to lock and cut the excess yarn. And this time, kukunin naman natin yung ating color periwinkle na yarn. Make a slip knot. And then look for that last stitch from the previous row. And then, gagawin natin, i-attach natin siya doon sa pinaka last stitch, pero doon lang sa back loop tayo mag-a-attach. Slip stitch lang natin. Yan. And then, we're going to start with chain 2. And then, only on the back loop of the stitch, maglalagay tayo ng 2 double crochet on each stitch. So, back loop lang tayo maglalagay. Okay? So, hindi masyado makita dito, pero back loop lang yung nilalagyan ko ng stitch. And gagawin natin yan paikot hanggang mabuo natin yung skirt. Yan, hanggang makarating tayo dito. So, once na natapos na natin, ang gagawin naman natin ay i-connect natin yung 2 ends this time. I-connect na natin sila. So, look for that first stitch ng ating row. And then, slip stitch natin on top of it to connect the ends. Now, pagkatapos nito, for row 2 to row 19, ang magiging pattern natin ay chain 2, and then make 1 double crochet on each stitch. This time, 1 double crochet na lang ulit. Paikot. Hanggang marating natin sa dulo. So, again, doon sa first row lang tayo, nag 2 double crochet on each stitch. But for row 2 to row 19, that's just 1 double crochet on each stitch. Now, once na natapos na natin yung ating 19 rows para sa skirt, yan, natapos na natin siya. I-connect lang natin yung ends ulit by placing that slip stitch on top of the first stitch of the row, and then lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, kukunin natin yung ating white yarn, make a slip knot, and then slip stitch lang natin doon sa anywhere doon sa ating back loop ng previous row. So, you can do it on the sides or kung gusto nyo, kung saan kayo nag-end doon sa previous row. So, slip stitch and then chain 2. Only on the back loop, make 1 double crochet on each stitch. Paikot ng buong skirt. So, that's 1 double crochet on each stitch until the end of the row. So, ang ginagawa ko dito, sinasama ko lang yung pinaka-tail para hindi na ako mag-weave. So, natapos ko na. And, i-connect lang ulit natin sa end. So, make a slip stitch on top of that first double crochet. And then, lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, once na natapos na natin yung ating skirt, ang gagawin naman natin yung edging natin sa neckline. So, magsa-start tayo doon sa pinaka-waist muna. Make a slip knot and then slip stitch natin yung white yarn natin. And then chain 1. Now, for each row, maglalagay tayo ng 2 single crochet para even siya. And then, just remember na every row, 2 stitches ang lalagay natin. But on the 3rd single crochet, maggagawa tayo ng peacoat. So, chain 3. And then, slip stitch natin doon sa pinaka-base ng ating single crochet. And then, slip stitch. So, kung makikita nyo, nag-create kayo ng peacoat doon. And then, mag-single crochet ulit ako dun sa same stitch. Kasi 2 stitches per row ang ginawa natin. So, same here. So, this would be the 3rd stitch. So, magagawa ulit ako ng peacoat. Chain 3. And then, slip stitch doon sa pinakababa. And uulitin lang natin itong same pattern na to, paikot doon sa neckline hanggang marating natin yung kabilang side. So, madali lang naman siya. Just remember na maglalagay tayo ng peacoat para medyo may design. Paikot hanggang marating natin yung dulo. So, natapos na natin yung neckline. Now, what I'm going to do is connect naman yung 2 ends. So, look for that first single crochet and then slip stitch lang natin. Ganyan. So, don't worry, magkakaroon ng maliit na butas dun sa ilalim ng ating neckline, but that's okay. We're going to fix it later. So, now, just lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, get your pink yarn and make a slip knot. And hanapin natin yung 2 ends noong front loop sa may waistline. And then, slip stitch natin doon yung ating pink yarn para ma-close natin yung pinaka-waist. And then, chain 1. Na kung maalala nyo, may front loop na naiwan dito. So, what we're going to do is we're going to place 1 single crochet on each stitch doon sa natitirang front loop doon sa may waistline. So, paikot yan. Maglalagay lang tayo ng 1 single crochet on each stitch. So, once na natapos na natin yung ating waistline, we're going to make a lace or a belt, kung anong gusto niyo itawag sa kanya. Now, first, we're going to connect the 2 ends. So, slip stitch natin on top of that first single crochet for the row. And then, once na-connect na natin, idediretso na natin siya for the belt or the lace. So, you can chain 150 to 200 chains. Depende kung gaano nyo kahaba gusto yung lace. And then, once you're done with that chain, ang gagawin nyo lang ay magsislip stitch kayo for each of those chains hanggang makabalik kayo doon sa pinaka first chain na ginawa nyo. So, makikita nyo, hindi ko na medyo napakita dito, but later I'll show you pag winark natin yun dun sa may arms. Now, after that, hindi pa tayo tapos. So, we're going to slip stitch back to that base. And then, gagawa pa ulit tayo na isa pang lace. Same thing, chain 150 or 200 chains, then slip stitch going back for each of those chains hanggang makabalik tayo dun sa first chain. And then, pag natapos na natin, slip stitch ulit natin doon sa pinaka same stitch. And then, lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, once we're done, di ba meron tayong maliit na butas doon sa ilalim? Ilulusot natin doon yung ating pinaka-lace sa ilalim. Doon sa butas sa ilalim noong ating skirt. Yan. Makikita nyo. I-connect lang natin. Okay? Or ilalabas lang natin doon yung lace. Now, once na ilabas na natin, gagawin lang natin, i-criss-cross lang natin yan para masarado yung pinaka-neckline. So, i-insert lang natin doon sa mga butas. Now, we're going to make the sleeve doon sa kabilang side kasi nagawa ko na yung first sleeve. So, get that periwinkle yarn, make a slip knot, and then slip stitch natin doon sa may armpit area ng ating armhole. And then chain 2 and make 2 double crochet on each stitch doon sa ating armhole. So 2 double crochet on each stitch. Now, once na natapos na natin yan, i-connect lang natin doon sa dulo. Okay, so tapos na natin yung first row. So, i-connect na natin doon sa pinaka-first double crochet of the row. Slip stitch natin. And then, for row 2 and row 3, chain 2 and then make 1 double crochet on each stitch, pero we're only going to work on the back loop only. So for row 2 and row 3, chain 2 and then make 1 double crochet on each stitch, pero doon sa back loop lang tayo maglalagay ng stitch. Iiwanan natin yung front loop ulit. Okay? Now, once we're done with our row 2, we're going to slip stitch on top of that first double crochet of the row and then i-connect lang natin, and then we're going to repeat the same pattern for row 2. So still back loop lang tayo maglalagay ng stitch. Okay? Now, once we're done with row 3, i-connect lang natin yung 2 ends by putting that slip stitch on top of the first stitch of the row. And then for row 4, chain 2, still back loop lang tayo mag-work. Ang gagawin natin, magdi-decrease tayo. So, on the first 2 stitches, make a decrease or 2 double crochet together. Kung hindi nyo alam kung paano gawin, I have a separate tutorial for that. Okay. But decrease, and then on the next stitch, make 1 double crochet. And then on the next 2 stitches, make that 2 double crochet together. So, interval siya ng 2 double crochet together at 1 double crochet on each stitch. So, gagawin lang natin hanggang matapos natin yung row. And then, after nating matapos, isi-slip stitch lang natin to connect the ends. So, again, for these stitches, back loop lang tayo naglagay ng stitch, okay? So, we're going to start with row 5. So, chain 2 ulit. And then, still at the back loop lang ulit. What we're going to do is make a decrease on each stitch. So, all around or all throughout row 5, ang gagawin lang natin ay 2 double crochet together. Or, we also call it decrease. So, decrease tayo hanggang matapos natin yung buong row 5. Now, once we're done with row 5, we're going to connect the ends, slip stitch ulit natin on top of that first stitch, and then lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, we're going to start with our row 6. We're going to use the pink yarn, so make a slip knot using the pink yarn. And then, dun tayo magsa-start sa middle stitch. Hindi dun sa armpit area, pero doon sa opposite side. Doon sa may shoulder mismo tayo magsa-start o yung middle stitch ng ating sleeve. So, slip stitch natin siya. And then, chain 1 or chain 2 rather. And then, make 1 half double crochet on each stitch until the end of the row. So again, that's 1 half double crochet on each stitch until the end of the row. So, once na-complete na natin yung ating sleeves, we're going to slip stitch on top of that first half double crochet for the row. And then, ang gagawin natin, gagawa ulit tayo ng lace. Itutuloy natin sa lace yung ating stitch. So, after you connect, we're going to chain 75 to 80 chains. And then, after ng chain, isi-slip stitch natin for each chain. Magsi-slip stitch tayo para medyo magtiken o kumapal yung ating lace. So, gagawin natin yan hanggang makarating tayo doon sa pinaka-first chain na ginawa natin. Now, once we're done with that, gagawin lang natin, slip stitch natin pabalik doon sa base or doon sa pinaka original stitch sa baba. And then, we're going to make another lace. So, chain 75 to 80 ulit and then slip stitch ulit pabalik. Now, once we're done with that, we're going to lock and cut the excess yarn. Now, gagamit natin yung white yarn naman ulit. Make a slip knot. And then, start where you end your previous row. Slip stitch on that last stitch. And then, chain 2. And make 1 double crochet on each stitch until the end of the row. So, paikot yan. We're going to make 1 double crochet on each stitch hanggang marating natin yung kabalang side. But, hindi lang natin lalagyan ng stitch yung stitch na meron tayo nung lace. Okay, nalalagyan ng lace. Okay? So, once you're done with that, chain 2, turn, and then make 1 double crochet on each stitch until the end of the row. So, uulitin natin to ng 8 times. O not 8 times, sorry. Ng 4 times. So, from row 8 to row 11, same lang yung gagawin nating pattern. So, ganito ang mangyayari. Kanya yung magiging itsura niya. Now, once we're done with row 11, gagawin natin yung edging noong side ng ating cuff doon sa sleeve. So, that's chain 1. And then, papunta doon sa side, we're going to make 2 single crochet on each stitch. Sorry, not 2 single crochet on the same stitch. That's 2 single crochet on each row. So, gagawin lang natin yan hanggang matapos natin itong side ng ating white part ng sleeve. And then, pagdating natin sa dulo, doon sa may lace, ang gagawin natin para makatawid tayo sa kabilang side, we're going to skip the lace, we're going to chain 2, and then after chain 2, itutuloy lang natin yung ating single crochet stitch doon sa edging ng ating sides. Hanggang marating natin yung pinakadulo. So, once na narating na natin yung pinakadulo, doon na tayo sa edging doon sa ating dulo ng sleeve. So, we're going to chain 1 and then make 1 single crochet on each stitch for the first 3 stitches. And then, we're going to make a peacoat. So, chain 3. And then, slip stitch on that loop. Yung loop na yan sa base ng ating last single crochet. And, makakagawa na kayo ng peacoat. So, repeat that same pattern. Same lang to nung pattern natin doon sa may neckline. So, every after 3 stitches, gagawa lang tayo ng peacoat. And, gagawin lang natin to hanggang matapos natin itong row na ito. Hanggang makarating tayo dito. So, once we're done, we're going to lock and cut the excess yarn. And then, yung lace doon sa sleeve, gagawin lang natin kagaya ng ginawa natin doon sa neckline. Okay? Now, we're going to use the pink yarn, make a slip knot, and then, sa sleeve, punta tayo doon sa may armpit area. If you remember, meron tayong front loop na iniwan. So, we're going to work on it. Slip stitch doon sa may armpit part ng sleeve. And then, chain 1. And make 1 single crochet on each stitch doon sa ating front loop. So, pwede nyo siyang i-fold ng Paganyan para mas makita nyo yung front loop. At mas madali nyo siyang ma-work. So that's 1 single crochet on each stitch. Now, once you're all done, i-connect lang ulit natin yung end. Yan, tapos na siya. So, i-connect lang natin yung ends niya. Slip stitch on top of that first single crochet of the row. And then lock and cut the excess yarn. At uulitin lang natin siya para dun sa remaining 3 rows ng ating front loop. So, same pa rin ang gagawin nyo doon. And then, once you're done with this side, then you have to do the same pattern para dun sa kabilang sleeve. And yes, tapos na ating Rapunzel dress. So, here's our finished product. You can use it gaya nito or backwards o dun sa likod. Now, please don't forget to subscribe to Routine Stitch, like our videos. For any requests, just leave a message on the comment box below. And on our part 2, we're going to make